Hey everyone, welcome to the Book Barn. I'm Leisha.
And I'm Lainey. And we were supposed to have a friend join us today. Boo, she got sick.
So hope you feel better, Lynn.
Yes. We'll get you here another time.
So what have you been up to, Lainey?
Teaching.
Snow days?
Yes, many snow days. I think a week's worth. Did we go to school one day out of the week? I think the Friday.
Friday, yeah.
Yeah, but had lots of snow days, and now it's 70 or something.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Springtime now. Fake spring, though.
Right. And I'm still concerned that we'll still get some winter.
Probably. Well, how about our Facebook page?
Yes, you asked a pretty good question on there the other day, and we had some good responses.
Have you ever judged a book by its cover and just bought it or borrowed it without reading the summary? And did it live up to your expectations?
I kind of want to do that now. I want to just go to a bookstore and just look at the covers and pick the one that's the prettiest.
Yeah, so you haven't done that?
I really haven't, no.
Well, that is how I found The Lost Bookshop.
And I love that book.
I thought the cover was just so pretty. It just really grabbed me. And I thought, I'm going to read this. Doesn't matter what it's about. And loved the book. And we did it for our book club, too.
So I liked Holly's answer. She picked my best friend's Exorcism because of the cover. It was very 80s. She said I couldn't not buy it. She said she didn't care what it was about, although it was pretty clear. And it was a little gross, she said. Yeah. But she loved every retro minute, she said.
That's awesome. And Joe talked about browsing the shelves at the library and said that it becomes a treasure hunt.
So fun. I want to do that with my grandkids too. Like take them to a bookstore and say, gee, mama, I'll buy you one book, go, whichever book you pick, and just see what they come up with.
Yeah, sounds fun. Stacy said they will never make a movie starring me. She got it at Walden Books in the Pittsburgh Mall and loved it.
And she did post the cover of that, and it did look interesting.
It did.
So, cool.
How about our listeners? Have you ever judged a book by its cover and just went for it?
Yeah, let us know. I did have a message from my daughter-in-law's grandmother. She saw the 3 books that we covered the last episode, and she let me know that she ordered Running Barefoot for her Kindle.
Oh, I hope she loves it.
That's what I told her. My friend Leisha really loved it.
Yeah.
So I hope she does as well.
Such a good book. Yep. So what have you been reading?
Oh my goodness. I looked on my Goodreads and I've already read 5 books since January 1st.
That's
so
great.
I'm doing pretty well. I read, of course, The Tattooist. We're going to talk about that today. And I've been working on Raven by Gregor. And I'm about 75 to 80% done with that. It's spicy, but I think she's got a winner.
Awesome.
It is very well written. So we'll talk about that later as well. And then I jumped ahead, way ahead, and I listened to The Wedding People. And I finished it this morning.
Ooh, that's one of our book club books coming up.
And I can't wait to talk about it. I'm getting ready to do A Killing Cold, which is our next book club book. And then after that, Echo of Old Books,
Which I loved.
and that's why I'm going to read it.
Yeah, it was really good. So I can't wait to hear what you think about it.
I'm excited, and I have a few other people reading along with me, so maybe they'll join us.
I hope so. We might have a special episode there, right?
Right.
Well, I haven't read nearly that many this year. I need to get with it. But you know what I decided to do? It's a book we've already read, both of us, and I decided to listen to the audio version of it, Remarkably Bright Creatures. Oh, and so I started that, and I'm a quarter of a way in because it's so cute, because Marcellus has a separate voice from Tova, or the narrator, for the rest of the story. So it's pretty neat.
That I bet that is wonderful. Okay, are we ready to talk about our book club book?
We are.
Okay.
So today we will explore our February book club book, and it's one that takes us on a journey of history, memories, and survival. The Tattooist of Auschwitz by Heather Morris. And, before we start sharing our thoughts on this very powerful story, I think that it's important to recognize the gravity of the subject matter.
Yes, I agree. We need to. Everyone knows the Holocaust was a genocide that took place during World War II.
Yeah, and 6 million Jews, along with millions of others, including Roma, disabled individuals, political opponents, were murdered in concentration camps across Europe. And of course, Auschwitz was one of the largest and the most notorious of those camps. It specifically stands out because it was both a concentration camp and an extermination camp.
So sad.
More than 1 million people were killed there.
Yeah. The Tattooist of Auschwitz is based on the real-life experiences of Lale Sokolov. Is that right?
I don't remember that one.
I thought it was Lil from the book.
I know, or Lale. Yeah. That's what I thought too, but I listened to it, and they pronounced it Lale.
Lale. He was a Jewish man who was forced to tattoo numbers on the arms of fellow prisoners. Lil's story is heartbreaking, but it is inspiring as well. His determination to survive, even in the darkest moments, is incredibly strong. When he's first put on the train, there's a line in the book that reads, "We stand in shit, but let us not drown in it." Yeah. It was demanded that each Jewish family hand over a child 18 or older to work for the German government.
Man, and they really just didn't have any idea what that entailed.
No. And actually his brother was the one that probably should have went. He was the older.
Yeah, but he had children and a wife, and so Lale went.
Yeah, he volunteered.
They were transported like animals.
And welcomed by German guards and dogs. A sign was above the entrance to the camp. It was in German, but if you translate it, it meant work makes you free.
And they weren't free.
At all.
No. So he gets put to work as the camp's tattooist, and this role puts him in what I would say is a morally complex position because he is forced to mark his fellow prisoners. And, while that job did give him some extra privileges, like he had his separate sleeping quarters, but it really came with a significant emotional burden because in the eyes of many, he was both a prisoner and a perpetrator.
Right.
And I think that you could really sense his guilt.
Yeah, you could. He knows to survive, he must do what they ask him to do. And it feels wrong.
Yeah, very wrong. So I started out reading the ebook version.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I did. But then I switched to the audio, partly because I was really wanting to know how to say
I'm glad you did.
Lale's name. But man, wow, it really was so good. And the narrator was wonderful. How about you? What format?
I had the actual book.
Okay. All right. So do you have a paragraph?
I did choose a paragraph. It was about Lale. He had never considered himself naive, and he had been worried about the rise of Hitler, but couldn't accept that the Nazis would invade Slovakia. So this is the paragraph I chose. And yet here he is now. 2 years have passed. He lives in a community largely split into two, Jewish and Romney, identified by their race, not their nationality. And this is something Lale still cannot understand. Nations can threaten other nations. They have power. They have militaries. How can a race that is spread out across multiple countries be considered a threat? For as long as he lives, be it short or long, he knows he will never comprehend this. And that was on page 165.
Wow.
How about you?
So my paragraph is from chapter 20. Lale's gotten into some trouble and has been sent to Block 31, which is known for punishment, I guess. Yeah. So he's been beaten to get some information out of him, and he's in some pretty bad shape. And this is on page 229, and it broke my heart. And this is the quote. In a field between the two camps of Auschwitz and Birkenau, they are made to carry large rocks from one side to the other. When the rocks have been moved over, they are told to take them back again. And so the day goes on. Lale thinks of the hundreds of times he has walked alongside the road and seen this activity taking place. No, I only glimpsed it. I couldn't watch what these men were enduring. He quickly works out that the SS shoot the last one to arrive with his rock. In the next paragraph, there is another line that says, when the day ends, those still living gather up the bodies of those slain and carry them back to the camp. I freaking cried reading this. I had tears rolling down my cheeks.
Yeah, and it reminded me of a fictional movie, Squid Games. Have you ever watched that?
I haven't.
I mean, I don't really like it, but, it was like games and they would kill the person that was always the loser. But this is real life.
This is real life.
That's totally different.
And there wasn't even any point to carrying the rocks, so there wasn't. A lot of the jobs they did, within the camp, there was a purpose to them. And this was only punishment. Carry the rocks one side to the other, one side to the other. And then if you're last, you're dead. And I cried.
Yeah.
That one broke my heart. Well, the whole book does, but that was just a really powerful moment.
I agree.
And he's in such bad shape when he does it, too. And he said, I think that he was like second to last one time, but survived. So, all right, shall we put our spoiler alert here?
Probably so.
All right, so if you do plan to read this book and you haven't done it yet, you may want to press stop now.
So back to Lale's story. His relationship with, is it Gita?
It's Gita. Yep.
Gita, a fellow prisoner, becomes the anchor in his life. If I remember right, the first time he saw her eyes, he fell in love with her. In a place where so many were losing their lives, they found something worth living for, each other. So at one point, Gita asked Lale if he has lost his faith. And this part really got me. He said, the first night I arrived here, I told you what happened, what I saw. How any merciful God could let that happen, I don't know. And nothing has happened since that night to change my mind. Mm. Again, I think we've talked about this before. In our lives, we can't even compare the pain or, we've got it so good. Mm-hmm. So it makes you feel kind of guilty when you complain about, what's going on in our own little world. But
so do you think that if Gita and Lale had met in a more conventional way, that they would have developed the same kind of relationship?
I would like to hope so.
I know there was a connection there.
Right.
I mean, he looked into her eyes, like you said, and I'm sure that it would be a very different relationship because you're not having to meet in secret and
right.
But
I think that relationships that are built with extreme circumstances, I think that bonds them even more so. So maybe that's why their bond was so tight.
I agree with that. I do. Yeah.
So we need to talk about morality here. Ooh. How did the prisoners have to bend their morals to survive? Oh, my word. So Tattooist.
Yeah. Marking his fellow Jews and just
men, women. Did he have to do the children?
Well, he said that they didn't mark the children, but there were some that he felt were kind of questionable. They were young. They still seem so young. And he didn't want to mark any of them. But yeah, that was all, heartbreaking. And then, of course, there was a Nazi girlfriend, was forced to be the girlfriend.
Yeah. Heartbreaking.
Silke.
Yes. And there's another book after this one, a sequel that is about Silke. And I do want to read that. Mm-hmm. But her friends knew it was happening. Obviously, there was not a thing they could do to help her.
Right.
there was not a thing she could do to help herself.
Not if she wants to live.
Right. And then I'm pretty sure at the end of the book, they give some facts about Silke. And I think she was imprisoned for helping the Germans.
Yeah.
Even though she was forced to do it.
Yeah. And then I can't say his name the way.
Do they say Jakob?
Maybe. Probably Jakob.
Okay. So when it told that he was from America.
I know.
From America, had went over to visit family, and then got rounded up, and Lale helped him when he first got to the prison.
Mm-hmm.
You know, gave him food because he was hungry.
Right. And Lale told him, they're going to find a job for you. You've got the strength and the build, and you're going to do something, so you will be important. And
well, they did find a job for him.
They did find a job, yeah. Torturing prisoners to get whatever they needed out of them, I guess. And at this point, it was Lale he was beating to try and find out who had
given him jewels and money.
Yes, which we don't have to tell all about that, but yeah. Just
right. So building the crematorium.
Yeah.
Even people from outside the camp would come in to help with that task, which bothered me.
Yeah. And because they were getting paid for it.
Yes.
So which one shocked you the most?
I think the Silke story probably was, I don't know if shock is the right word, but the most heartbreaking to me.
So you know that Lale's story really represents probably thousands of narratives that share a similar theme, courage, survival, immense loss. And books like this are important because they ensure that the tragic events of the Holocaust and the voices of those who endured the unimaginable are remembered.
I agree. Yeah, that is really true. We're living in a time where Holocaust denial is still very much a reality, which I don't get. I think reading stories like this is crucial for the younger generation to understand what happened, to honor the lives lost, to make sure that history isn't forgotten. It's not just about telling a personal story, but reminding us of the importance of standing against hatred and injustice. The book encourages reflection, not just on what happened, but also on what we can do to ensure that it doesn't happen again. We can't be naive. We have to know that it could happen. We just need to make sure it doesn't happen.
By educating people and letting them know what has happened in the past.
So I guess there are a couple other people that we haven't talked about yet. For example, Nadia. She was one of the Romney women. I think the reason why her story is so important is because her story kind of continues after the book. Because I'm pretty sure that painting that Lale and his wife have and handed down to their son of a Romney woman, I felt like that was a painting that reminded him of Nadia.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe. And
representing
so,
it.
Yeah, she was a Romney, and she was in the camp. She was a neighbor of Lale. And then one day they
took them all.
Took them all.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that was the most shocking for me.
It was.
That was
and
terrible.
Why did they do that? Is because they needed the room?
Probably.
They just needed to keep opening up space. And so they took the gypsies. Yeah.
And just got rid of them.
Yep. Children.
Yep.
All of them. Yeah.
What about Leon? I mean, they did medical experiments on people, and he was one.
He was an experiment. Okay.
He was definitely.
I wasn't quite sure. I knew that he was taken away and then reappeared. Did he have visible signs, or he was just, I can't remember.
He became a eunuch.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I do remember now. Oh, yeah. Poor guy.
Guy.
Yes. Oh, gosh. Now I do remember.
But when he came back, Lale was so excited to see him because he thought they had killed him.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Now I feel bad that I couldn't remember that.
This book is not a big book. It's a whole lot of story in a little package.
Yeah.
For people that, want to read it, I felt it was an easy isn't the right word. It was a quick read with a huge impact. Do you know what I'm saying?
I agree with the easy read part, even though it's not easy on your emotions.
Correct.
Yeah.
I guess we should talk about the end when Lale and Gita get back together. So they do get out of the camp.
Yes.
And they do find each other. They get married. They do eventually have a child. It takes a while. He was born in 1961, it said.
So that part, they moved to Australia. That all reminded me of the Happiest Man.
Yes.
Because they reunited, moved to Australia, had their family, and had really a nice life there. I mean, for the most part. I know that their son, Gary, he had a little section in the back of the book. And was it Gary that told that they had lost their business?
Yes, I think so.
But that his mother was singing and happy, and he was like, why? Why? And she's like, well,
we've already been through the worst of it.
Right.
So, yeah, he did tell that. And he had the Romney painting in his home, still does, it said. Oh, it did talk about how Gary's parents made him watch the World at War. They didn't tell him the stories. They made him watch so that he would know what had happened to the parents. I thought that was interesting. And Gita only told him one story from the death camps. When she was very sick, her mother came to her in a vision and told her, "You will get better. You'll move to a faraway land and you'll have a son." Oh, that gives me tingles. So final thoughts. What do you think?
Well, before we wrap this up, I want to ask, what kind of impact did this book have on you personally? Did it change the way you thought about the Holocaust or the way we remember history?
I think it definitely deepens my understanding. I have read about the Holocaust before. A couple of our books that we have done, The Happiest Man, we've already talked about. And then we also did the Book of Lost Names.
Yeah.
All powerful books. I've also been to the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C., and that is a punch in the chest experience. I mean, when you see the suitcases and the shoes, and then when we were done with the museum at the end, there was actually a man there that was a Holocaust survivor.
Oh, wow.
And so, we won't have that for much longer because they're very elderly. But, I thought this book was good. And the subject definitely isn't an easy one, but I think it's an important one. And so I think everyone should read it.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It also makes me realize that we have a role to play in preserving those memories so that the future generations can learn from them. And having said that, I would recommend this book to anyone who is looking to learn more about the Holocaust or anyone who just enjoys a powerful, emotional read. Like we said, the subject isn't an easy one, but it is an important one.
And it is a love story.
It is.
We want to thank you all for joining us today, and we hope you've enjoyed our discussion of The Tattooist of Auschwitz.
And that's by Heather Morris. And let's see, our next book is going to be
A Killing Cold.
A Killing Cold, just a reminder, and then The Wedding People.
Yes.
And so everybody just needs to get busy reading, right? So until next time, everyone, stay curious. Remember the power of storytelling. I'm Laisha.
And I'm Lainey.
And keep your bookmarks busy.